Hey everybody, Logan here. How about this bit of news? Did you expect this? Well, I kind of did, and we're going to get into why I kind of did, and it makes a lot of sense. Well, one part does, one part does. Let's get into the numbers. So, let me show you the article. I've seen this number of different places, but my go-to is for these kind of articles would be Push Square, Pure Xbox, or Nintendo Life, or whatnot. But this one tells us blatantly PS5 is now trending ahead of PS4 life to date sales in US despite all the stock setbacks, and far, far ahead of PS3. Well, we know the PS3 did not do so well overall, just because it was left on the market longer than the 360 and ended up passing it. But that's a given. That would happen when Sony leaves their stuff on the market for so long. It just tends to happen. But this I kind of expected, sort of. The PS5 is now trending ahead of the PS4 life to date sales in Japan. I mean, sales in the US. Okay, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the article, think about how many consoles were sold before they were actually sold. Think about that. So what that is, people bought them, but the people that bought them were scalpers. So the scalpers bought them and sat on them. So they count as sales. But people didn't really have them in their hands. If you saw active users, the amount of sales compared to how many people are actually on PlayStation Network playing was such a small fraction, which was ridiculous. But here, let's just get into the meat and potatoes. When the PS5 first launched in 2020, it had a lot of obstacles to overcome. Yes, we had the pandemic, obviously, had a massive effect on just about everything. And Sony's early generation plans were clearly scuppered? Scuppered? I haven't heard that word. Amidst the chaos. Component shortages meant that the PS5 was initially stuck in production limbo, and the limited product was further impacted by worldwide shipping issues. Yeah, but when they got shipped, people couldn't buy them because scalpers are POSs. All of this resulted in some pretty severe stock setbacks, where, for a good 18 months or so of the PS5's life, actually finding and buying a current gen console was shockingly difficult. Scalpers. But even after all those problems contributed to one of the most troubled PlayStation launches ever, PS5 sales have absolutely exploded in recent times, because scalpers are now selling off what they were sitting on because people weren't buying them for lower prices. So now more people have them. Those count towards the sales. Well, not the resales from the scalpers, but now you can walk into any Walmart, Target, Best Buy, what have you, GameStop, and just pick up a PS5. It's very simple, very easy. The system has really been pulling away in Europe, a region where PlayStation has always ruled the roost. And now in the US, it's showing some sure signs of market dominance. Okay, it didn't always rule the roost in Europe, because I had a lot of friends, especially during the late Xbox, early 360 era, let's say around the time when Rainbow Six Vegas came out. Do you guys remember that? They were all saying how the Xbox was outselling everything, but they weren't really reporting it. And they saw numbers and articles talking about it, but it didn't last long. So I can't really say it's always ruled the roost. And that's just from, you know, people who live over there. It's been Scotland, it's been the UK, being England, mainly, as where I've gotten my information from. Okay, let's go back. Where were we? But even after all those problems contributed to the one most troubled PlayStation launches ever, PS5 sales have absolutely exploded. Okay, yeah. In a new games industry report backed by Circana, previously NPD. Oh, so that's previously NPD Group. It's revealed that the PS5 is currently trending 5% ahead of the PS4. That's actually really good when compared to this at the same point in its own life cycle. I have a feeling that means we're going to see just common sense, it will outsell the PS4 by, I'm going to go with almost 10 to 20%. Just because this, think about it. I've talked about it before. This generation will last longer than the PS4 life cycle because now people are finally starting to get it. Developers are finally starting to move away from the PS4. So that's kind of what's happening. Some people are saying we'll see a new console in 2026. Some are saying 2028. 2028, I feel, is more likely because one, we're in a massive recession. The economy is in a terrible place. Not just us, other countries as well, where they're going to make games and people just aren't buying and it's harder and everything's more expensive. So I think we're going to see this generation last a little longer unless, 2025, if everything works out and, life gets back to being where we were in, let's say, 2019. Hopefully that's the case, and then maybe things will change, but as of right now, it doesn't look that way. That may seem like a somewhat insignificant figure, but you need to remember that the PS4 was a record-breaking sales machine. For the PS5 to be punching above its predecessor after being saddled with all the aforementioned issues, Sony must be delighted. I agree. The PS4, in my opinion, was not that good of a machine compared to the Xbox One. It had issues with the OS and all kinds of other stuff. In my opinion, it was slow. I don't know. It was an okay machine. It was just another black box. It had no identity. And I covered this in a recent video, and a lot of people agreed with me. But with that being said, the PS5 really needs to strive now that it's got that player base that's working and scaling up. It's time to get some games that define the generation for the PlayStation. I think we can do that. I think we can see that, or they can do it, I should say, and us as gamers and consumers will be able to enjoy it. Now, second part is the Xbox, and the reason I chose this article is because it also talks about the Xbox, and I think this is a big statement of where Microsoft is, and it's pretty much just confirmed everything I've said, even though as someone whose previous generations was always pure Xbox. I was an Xbox guy. Even though I had every other system, I mained the Xbox, and now this is sad to say when the Xbox One was a very low selling system for Microsoft. Just for some additional context, the PS5 is trending a whopping 87% ahead of the PS3, which of course was a truly troubled console during its first couple of years on the market. Elsewhere in the industry, the Xbox Series XS is actually down 10% on the Xbox One, but it's ahead of the Xbox 360 by 6%. Microsoft was, of course, with its own stock issues due to the pandemic, but the PS5 competitor is seemingly nowhere near Sony's system in terms of commercial momentum. All right, what this means here. We're talking 2005, so about 2008. The gaming industry was not as big. The Xbox 360 was outselling the PS3, hands down. Now, with gaming being even more mainstream than it ever has been, it makes sense that the Xbox One was selling more than the Xbox 360 in its same life to date era or time, whatever you want to call it. And the Xbox Series XS, yes, it makes sense that it's down because Microsoft has pretty much blatantly said, you don't need to buy our console. Why even bother wasting your money on our console? Play it on your phone. Sorry, it's charging. Play it on your phone. Why did I undo that? Or on your computer. Play it on anything that isn't an Xbox. Play it on the Asus ROG Ally, play it on there. Why bother buying an Xbox? You can play it on anything, right? And that's their problem. They've made it so you don't need to buy an Xbox. And that's a shame. And this number is going to be worse at the end of the Xbox life cycle, Xbox Series life cycle compared to the Xbox One, because you don't need an Xbox. And that is a dang shame when their black box or their white box, depending on which one you picked up, is a decent machine. Hey, maybe even the Series S is holding it back, but that's a conversation for another story. That is a story for another conversation for another day. There we go. So, tell me what you guys think about this. This is kind of nuts. I think it's cool that Sony's so far out ahead of their previous gen. That's great for them. Maybe that will get them to make new games, better games, era defining games that aren't just Spider Man. Final Fantasy 16, it is coming to PC. Maybe we can get some games that are just going, hey, wow, this, I need to buy a PlayStation. Final Fantasy hasn't been doing so well, which is, I'm actually shocked that the sales are much lower than they were projected. I wonder if that's why Square made that deal with Microsoft. But hey, maybe we'll find out more about that in the future. Let's not talk about the Switch because, wow, Nintendo just dropping the bomb. They beating everybody. But that's not what we're talking about. Tell me what you guys think about this. Did you own any of these consoles at their peak? Did you buy them when they first came out? What do you think about it? Do you have a PS5? I know a lot of my audience doesn't. They're either, most of them seem to be Switch, Xbox, and then some PlayStations. But a lot of them seem to be, a lot of you guys out there in TV land, remember those days? YouTube land. Most of you guys seem to have Xboxes and Switches, and the people who aren't subscribed, they'll have PlayStations. Funny, huh? Go figure. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video, drop your comments down below. Remember, be nice to each other. Seeing a lot of people being mean to each other. There's no reason for that. We're talking about video games. It's silly, fun goodness. Thank you guys so much. Like we always say, be legendary. Thanks again.